Shadow Tower was released by From Software after the King's Field trilogy and before King's Field 4. If you couldn't tell from the graphics, I'll tell you now. We're playing this on PlayStation 1. It does some things like its predecessors. It's first person, using the triggers to strafe and look up and down, despite being compatible with DualShock. For all you youngins, regular PlayStation 1 controllers didn't have thumbsticks. DualShock versions did. As odd as it sounds, it adds to the feel of the game, as a decent amount of the challenge involves moving around your enemies and striking when they present an opening. If you can move around more freely, they wouldn't be as intimidating, a recipe for making the game feel less spooky when combat ensues. For an easy example, Google tank controls in horror games. Like any From Software dungeon crawler, there are secret walls, so if you run into a dead end or a room without enemies, or a place you might put a wall just for funsies, start strafing and pressing the event button, or the button that interacts with stuff. True to RPG form, you technically do get stronger the more you fight, explore, and think about the mechanics enough to make your nose bleed if the air is dry enough. But that's where the biggest similarities end if you ask me. I mean, a lot changes in 20 years, be it in people or video games. In this case, we've gone back about 26 from the time of upload, which is when things like loading screens invoked wonder, excitement, and uncertainty of whether you cleaned the disc good enough for it to not freeze this time. What a classic trait of too many games to count. They show up when opening and closing the bestiary, leaving the inventory screen after equipping a new item, when respawning or entering an area. Not everything in the 90s was sunshine and rainbows. Learning and playing this game really does take patience, whether it's the combat, saving. Loading, or just talking to NPCs.
Huh? What's this? Some kind of fool has wandered in here.
Oddly enough, this makes battles feel pretty rewarding, especially when you've been peeking around corners hoping that growl or moan isn't coming from the desperate stretch between you and a potential save point. There's a slow rush to the whole ordeal, and the lack of music makes the fights feel much more visceral. Listen to the sound your shield makes when blocking some damage. I feel it more because everything else is quiet! While movement is identical to the previous King's Field trilogy, combat is a tad different. There's hands now, and they serve different purposes. The left holds shields and gets a button for magic from a ring. The right holds armaments and gets a different button for magic from a ring. You want to switch to your second equipped weapon and shield? Press the action button and then the hand whose items you want to switch. There's no animation for it, so you'll have to remember what gear you assigned. Immersion. Magic has its own button too. It fires a spell you equip from the ring you're wearing on each side. Sometimes, not being told how to do everything is a feature. Part of the reason Souls games became so popular. Back in the day, games wouldn't feature this. We had manuals for that. There are a ton of stats, more in depth than any Soulsborne game I've ever experienced. Playing this game blind is nearly impossible if you want to understand what every piece of gear can affect. I made the mistake of playing this for 6 hours straight with no idea what represents basic health, magic, nor special effects in this menu. Look at this! What's half of this supposed to be? The left side makes sense. Strudel, spooned, deafening, balls, slang, shaking my head, piranha. The right side is where you're left guessing. Spirit, focus, harmony, purity, particle, melting, soul. And, according to the manual, particle, melting, and soul changes more stats for fire, ice, acid, poison, holy, and dark effects. Don't ask me which ones. Leveling up works similar to using consumable money and experience in From Software's lighter bangers. You may find these items called soul pods that contain soul points used to increase your stats forever. They'll make finding coons a worthwhile task, as these little medallions are used to purchase said items in shops that'll have other valuable goods. And that's when you're not trading your goods for magic and health potions, or your health itself for repairs to your items. Why is health currency? Because it's valuable, so don't neglect it. Message! Otherwise, you better be saving the game often, as it's all too easy to lose precious dropped weaponry from unlikely places. See that? They weren't even using it. You might enter a different region connected to the tower you're exploring and need a place to warp back to when your health is low, fall into a trap. This is assuming you made it past some of the horrors you faced. Thankfully, you can read about them when you see them. Just head over to your creature book and locate the bad guy. Or cool guy. No, the menu won't tell you how to scroll to the next page. That's what the manual will tell you. Now that you know what single player is like, it's time for me to tell you about the versus mode that lets you battle another player's monsters with your monsters. This is so cool! If you and another player each save their Shadow Tower playthrough on their own memory card, that's 1990s and early 2000s for game profile on a console-exclusive flash drive, you can choose from a list of monsters you faced your own respective journeys, and make them beef with each other! You control the monster and they control theirs, which makes their stats much more important than they seem at first glance. All it took was you both inserting them into the console, starting the game, and selecting versus from the menu that shows up. Was this mode even necessary? Nope! Would I beg for it in games nowadays? Absolutely. It had the potential to make sharing the game with siblings more fun. You get to switch enemy and camera perspectives, and even if each match is 30 seconds like any From Software game, the music is some of the best I've heard. Older one plays single player, earns the monsters, and you do the same. This way, you both have a way to play at the same time. The manual tells you that. All in all, I'd say if you feel like being spooked while fighting for your life against the denizens of a tower with too many rooms, Shadow Tower is A-class. You might find yourself wanting to play more after every restart, even when navigation through anything is a slow burn. Fencing your enemies while staggering them, justifying more ways to do it all over again is just what this game is about at its core, and you can see which mechanics are still present in today's releases. Besides, who else is going to save Granny, or the city, or the continent? Yeah, I should have mentioned that before, it's pretty important. It's in the manual.